Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is all about what no one tells you about luxury bags. These are either common misconceptions that I hear a lot or otherwise things that I just don't think people always fully realize about luxury bags. If you're a seasoned luxury shopper, then a lot of these will probably be familiar to you, but if you are more new to luxury goods and luxury bags, hopefully you'll find this useful and interesting, and let's get started. So my first point is that not all leathers are created equal and you aren't necessarily getting the same type of leather, and some might even say the same quality of leather even within same styles within the same brand. So a good example of this is I went through Heathrow last year and I was picking up a wallet on a chain for a friend. He wanted to buy one for his wife and I was given free rein in terms of the colour. So I went in thinking I would get a black caviar version just because, you know, super classic obviously, but when I looked at the black caviar, it was just a little bit off looking to me. You know, it wasn't very shiny, it wasn't very puffy, the grains looked a bit odd, and I do have quite a few caviar bags from Chanel, so I was familiar with the leather. So I asked to see some other colours and they had this beautiful dark blue version, and immediately you could tell the difference between the two bags. You know, the dark blue version had this beautiful grain leather, it was very shiny, it looked very fresh, and it just looked like a better quality leather than the black one. And I really couldn't believe the difference, and I don't think I'd ever seen such a stark contrast between two of the same kind of bag. So obviously we went for the dark blue one and apparently she really loved it, which is great, but that shopping experience really highlighted to me the importance of asking to see a few variations of what you're buying, just because the leather quality really can differ, and that is even within the same style, within the same brand. My second point is about colour transfer. I get asked about colour transfer all the time. It's still one of my most frequently asked questions, even though I feel like I have done a few videos on it at this point, but it's a continual topic of interest, and often the form that the question takes is about a specific bag and whether it gets colour transfer or whether it's prone to colour transfer. And I do think that this is something of a myth, because more often than not, colour transfer has so much more to do with the clothing that you're wearing than the actual bag. Because technically speaking, all leathers will be susceptible to colour transfer. Now there are some bags and some types of leathers that will obviously show colour transfer more so. If you have a white or a pale pink or any pale colour, obviously that's going to show colour transfer a lot more than, for example, a black bag, which isn't going to show it very easily. Similarly, certain finishes on leather are more difficult to clean. So if you had a patent leather bag, it's very, very difficult to get colour transfer off a patent leather bag, much more so than a grain leather, for example. So there are obviously differences, but in terms of actually getting the colour transfer on your bag, really all leathers are going to be susceptible to that. So the focus should really be more on the clothing that you wear. Obviously, if you're wearing a pair of, you know, dark denim jeans, and denim is always the obvious one to reference here, if you have a pair of dark denim with a lot of dye in it and you're wearing something crossbody where there's a lot of rubbing, it's going to be much more susceptible to colour transfer than something that doesn't really rub as much. So definitely something to keep in mind. There are steps that you can do to kind of prevent against this. So my favorite one is just to use sprays, and you can get sprays for either your bag or your jeans. You can do both if you want to. I only tend to do my jeans, but you can absolutely do both. And it's very simple. You just spray your jeans or your bag, and it basically has a protective layer over it, which helps to prevent against colour transfer. So I will link the sprays that I use down below. They're not too expensive and it's definitely worth doing because it really does save your leather goods from colour transfer. My third point is about classic versus trendy bags, and again I think this one is a little bit of a myth because I hear people talk a lot about trendy versus classic bags. I talk about that a lot on my channel as well, but often I'll hear people ask, you know, is this a trendy bag? Is it a classic bag? And for me, it really isn't as black and white as that. It's much easier and better, I think, to think of it on a sliding scale. You know, there are some bags that are going to be more on the trendy side and some that are going to be more on the classic side, but there's also a whole bunch of them in between. And I think it's very easy to forget that even some bags which we think of as super classic weren't always as popular as they are now. So a really good example of that is the Chanel Mini. It's obviously super, super popular now. They're very difficult to get, and it is considered a very classic bag, but I bought this particular one about 4 years ago. I got it pre-loved. I got it for way under retail, and keep in mind, retail was a lot cheaper then than it was now. and this wasn't even the only one available on the site I was shopping. They had a few different Chanel minis, and they just weren't as crazy popular as they are now, which is why there was such a selection. You know, quite a few people were selling them. I had my choice. I was debating between this and a beige one. I ended up going for the black, but these are definitely having a moment now, and again, it's a classic bag, but it wasn't as crazy popular as it is today. So keep in mind that even very classic things kind of go in waves of popularity. Another good example of this is the Givenchy Antigona, which I think lots of people would say it's more of a trendy bag, but at the same time it's had amazing longevity and has been around for many, many years now. And I think that is due to the fact that it is a very classic style and a classic shape. So it isn't as black and white as one style is trendy and one style is classic. It's very much a sliding scale in terms of the longevity of any given bag. And tying into that, my fourth point is about resale value and investment pieces. Again, there's a lot of talk about investment pieces on the internet. It's another topic I touch upon a lot on this channel, but very, very, very few bags actually have really great resale value over a very long period of time. And here I'm talking decades rather than a couple of years. And when I say very few bags, I'm talking like 5 bags out of all the bags out there in the whole world. And so that's obviously far less than 1% of all bags available. So I'd always say not to get too hung up on resale value. And that is something that I absolutely like to keep in mind when buying a bag. But I am very aware that there are so few bags that do have incredible resale value that if you only wanted to limit yourself to that, again, you're limiting yourself to pretty much 5 styles out there. And here I'm talking about the Hermes Birkin and Kelly and the Chanel Classic Flap. Those very, very kind of classic bags, but there's only a few of them. So the vast majority of bags aren't going to have stellar resale value over a 10-20 year period. But it's also true that if you bought a very popular kind of it bag and sold it within a few months of getting it, you'd probably get most of your money back. So again, it is a sliding scale, but in terms of very long resale value, only a few bags have it. So I always think it's best not to get too caught up in it. It's something that I like to consider, but I'm also considering all the other aspects, especially how much I like it, how much I'll wear it, and all of those factors as well. My fifth point is about quality, and this is one that I think a lot of people who may not be so into luxury or otherwise kind of think that luxury is all about, you know, a logo or a brand might not fully get, but I do think that there is a quality difference between different price levels. And I think a lot of people think that when you get to Chanel price level or even Hermes, all you're paying for is the name. And of course, a lot of what you're paying for is the name, it's the logo, it's the branding, it's the marketing, it's the stores, it's the packaging, it's all that kind of stuff. And a very, very small percentage of what you're paying actually goes to the production of the bag. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a quality difference between the different price levels. And I think there is going to be a huge difference if you compare them side by side between, you know, a $50 high street bag to a Gucci bag to a Chanel bag. There will be differences in quality. And I really noticed this when I was doing my wallet on chain review video. I have 2 of my wallet on chains here. I have my Gucci one and my Chanel one. There is a big price difference between these. This one comes in at about £700, I think, and this is close to 2,000. Now, I don't think that there's so much of a quality difference that it justifies the price. A huge part of what you're paying for with the Chanel and also the Gucci is of course the brand, but holding them in my hand right now, I can absolutely feel a quality difference in the leather, in the weight of it, the construction. There is a quality difference, and obviously that would be true if you're comparing a high street clutch as well. So yes, you are paying for the branding and all that kind of stuff, but you are also paying for the quality as well, and you can expect to see higher quality the more you pay, generally speaking. And on that note is the subject of quality control. And even though in a perfect world, if you're spending a lot of money on any item, you should expect it to be perfect, often things can slip through, especially as luxury does become more and more popular. These fashion houses are producing more items, more bags than ever before, and things do slip through the cracks. So I would always say to give your item a once over if you are visiting it in the store. Just have a look at the stitching, at the leather. If they have quilting like a Chanel bag, look at the quilting alignment, look at the chain, you know. Just give it a once over, just spend a couple of minutes doing it. You obviously don't have to sit there for hours or anything like that, but I definitely think that is a worthwhile spend of your time just to make sure that what you're buying you're really happy with. That said, what you are also paying for is the customer service. So even though quality control can sometimes be a little bit hit or miss, what you can expect should be very, very good customer service. I know I bought Dan, my husband, a Louis Vuitton wallet for Christmas, and I told him I bought it for him because it was canvas, gonna be very durable, and I said if anything did go wrong with it, then we would be able to take it back. And he was like, well, obviously we're not going to be able to take it back after the first month. And I was like, well, yeah, if something goes wrong with it, we should be able to take it back at any time. And he was so shocked by this. He was like, really? Like, even after I've used it? I was like, if there's an actual fault to the item, then most fashion houses will stand behind the items, because it's also built into the price. You know, you are paying for a luxury item, but you're also paying for the guarantee behind it, the quality, and also the service. And I think sometimes that's something that people who aren't really into luxury fully get, but 100% you should be expecting not only a beautiful item, but excellent service and a guarantee behind the item as well. On the topic of customer service though, I did also want to mention how varying the levels of service can be, and again, in a perfect world this shouldn't happen. Obviously, if you're spending a lot of money on something, you should always expect very good, a very nice service. But I have definitely experienced a mixture of sales associates in my time, and often what I'll find is that what is policy with one sales associate is completely different with another sales associate. And that's everything from an exchange policy to stock to reserving an item to paying for an item over the phone. There are so many different aspects of the luxury shopping experience, I feel, and it can really, really vary according to who you speak to. And sometimes I also think that's just miscommunication within the fashion houses, and other times I don't even know what it is, but I have definitely experienced myself and also heard of very different experiences according to different people. So I would always say, if you are told one thing about something, you know, selling out or stock or anything like that, I'd always just ask someone else if you can, just to make sure. And similarly, that applies to the in-store experience as well. So if you are dealing with a sales associate who you're not really getting along with, then I always say it's worthwhile trying to find a different one. And just to avoid any awkwardness, I try to visit back on a different day, but if that's not possible, I like to just go for a little wander, you know, have a look at a different item, and then see if I can approach a different sales associate. You can, of course, ask to speak to someone else, but I always just think that's a little bit awkward, so I would rather not do that. But just having a look at something else and approaching someone else usually does work, and it helps ensure that you have a nice in-store luxury experience, because I feel like anyone who does luxury shopping regularly will probably have one or two stories where you're just dealing with a sales associate who maybe is having a bad day. So it's always best just to try someone else if that does happen. I'm down to my very last point now, and it is one that I'm a little bit biased on because obviously I like my handbags a lot, but I truly believe that if you buy right, then a luxury bag can be a much better purchase than anything that you buy on the high street, and can actually be quite a sensible purchase as well. If you buy the right style for you, you'll be able to wear it for decades, and you'll be able to get the cost per wear down to the tiniest amounts. I'm also a firm believer in the power of accessories to lift your look. So if you did want to save on your clothes and just splurge on one beautiful luxury handbag, I think that has the power to elevate any clothing, and it doesn't matter how expensive your outfit is. So I'm a huge believer in the power of accessories and investing in one beautiful item that you'll love and cherish for decades to come, versus spending on a lot of high street items which you may like but you're not necessarily going to love. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my points down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please do give us a thumbs up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.